Welcome in to another episode of the DNVR Rapids podcast. We are presented, of course, by the homies at Avaka TV. I'm your host, Mitchell Carroll, and we're mixing it up. We're running the two-man game today. We got a 2-on-1 here. It is the illustrious Joseph Samelson.
Hey, Mitch, thank you for having me on.
It's pretty cool.
It's been a while since I've been on the show.
It has.
But, 3 road games later, and we find ourselves here.
Yikes. 3 disastrous? Is that too big of a word? Disastrous road games?
I would call 1 point from those 3 games probably the worst case scenario. Like the worst case realistic scenario. I don't know how many of us expected the DC
minus 9 goal differential. One point. No goals scored. No, 1 goal scored. 1 goal scored.
1 goal scored.
Tough, man. And just an absolute,
I
mean, they're not eliminated, but I think we're all kind of operating under the guise of playoffs are probably kind of out the door right now. But what can we do as analysts and as fans and look for the rest of the season? So we're going to dig into that. We're going to try and say, what can X player or coach or whoever do to kind of turn their season around or kind of finish strong and kind of turn around the perception of what they've done. And then we're going to talk a little bit about DNVR bar and some fun moments we've had watching soccer in bars and what we can do as a pod to kind of build back the soccer culture in the bar downstairs from what it used to be. But first, we got to talk about this weekend. We have a late kickoff, 30 minutes later than normal. I have no idea why. 7:30 p.m. kick at the Dick. We have... Is it a revenge game? Would you call it a revenge game? I mean, yes, they lost, but it's tough to say revenge game when it doesn't feel like there's that much at stake, right? So...
Yeah, it's one of those things where the Rapids are really playing for pride at this point. We're playing for pride, and we're looking to see who from the young players shows improvement heading into next year, who can sort of like stake a claim to as a potential first team player next season. And we're also looking to see players like Zardes and Barrios and some other players who are approaching the end of their either current contracts or have option years. And there's sort of like an open question about whether or not those players are going to return next season. So it's really that it's really what we're looking at this stage. And B-Ray is absolutely right in the comments, like saying that, the Rapids don't win big games. They don't win revenge games. And honestly, like Vancouver is a team that when they come to Dick's Sporting Goods Park, they tend to get results. The Rapids haven't beaten Vancouver at Dick's since 2017. 3 wins and 2 draws, or maybe 2 wins and 3 draws for Vancouver in that time.
That's tough.
The Rapids have strangely fared better when facing Vancouver on the road, whether it was in Vancouver,
in a whole other country.
Well, even last year though, when they played in Utah.
Right.
Yeah. So the Rapids have this weird. The Rapids Vancouver have this weird relationship where, more recently, it seems that the visiting team has a better showing, and I personally have never witnessed the Rapids beating Vancouver at Dick's Sporting Goods Park in person.
Very strangely, and I'm not entirely sure why, I have very good vibes about this game. I again, they're completely unwarranted, unearned. So I put it like this: like I'm a professional athlete. I just got embarrassed 3 games in a row when I absolutely needed to do anything but get embarrassed. And even with the season on the line and saying how we're all in on this game, and then we're all in on this game, and we need to get 3 points, you get nothing close to what you need. You come home to a very beatable team at home. You have potentially a club goal record that could go down. You have guys that want to continue to start for MLS teams or make money from MLS teams. I don't know. It seems like this is a game, especially with the run of form they've had at home, to then have it go be worse on the road. It feels like this is a game that you kind of should feel pretty good about 3 points.
It really does need to be a get right game. And it is worth noting that, I mean, the Rapids have had 3 5-game or 6-game winless streaks this season, and they've never hit 7. So it's like just really hoping that they don't hit 7 this time. And
that's what's on the line on Saturday is 7.
7 winless and 7. Yeah, Rapids have not won since the start of August. And as B-Ray points out, Vancouver is going to be missing 2 pretty big keys. And we're going to be missing Ryan Gauld, who scored a brace against Colorado when these 2 teams met in August. Honestly, he had a great, I mean,
it was sick.
Listen, a lot of it was individual mistakes on the Rapids part, but Gauld was just on another level that night. You could see that he was just a really good player, really quality opponent for the Rapids to face, and he's out to yellow card suspension. And there's also Lucas Cavallini, who just received the hammer from the MLS disciplinary committee this afternoon. Yeah, for stepping on Alex Mule's neck, I believe. No, not Alex. Yeah, Alex Mule. Yeah, it confused me a second because Alex Mule used to be on the Red Bulls, but this happened when he was against Nashville.
Gnarly.
Yeah, so Cavallini's a big striker option for them. He's out. Brian White should be back. He was a guy who was on the injury report back when the Rapids visited Vancouver in Canada. So they're still gonna have like options. But listen, like the Vancouver season is effectively in the bin as well, just like Colorado's. Conventional wisdom is if you're more than 5 points below the playoff line with 5 games to go, I mean, that's basically it. And both of these teams are, let's be honest, they're just languishing in 10th and 11th place in the West, and there's no,
I think deservedly so too, right?
Yeah. It's not like
it's not surprising that either one of these teams are where they are.
What's been really interesting about the Rapids recently is that at the start of the season we had all these games where the Rapids were out creating and out shooting their opponents, just getting really unlucky in the final third. And then we've almost sort of moved in the opposite direction over these last few weeks, where we're seeing a team that just isn't doing enough to win the games in the first place. Like, I don't think, if I remember correctly, like the XG battles against Columbus and Houston were pretty even. Neither team really did enough to, like, obviously the Rapids were felt hard done by that late equalizer from the Dynamo, right? But it's not like the Rapids had like 3 misses in front of goal that they should have buried, and it would have been an easy win had they done that, right? It was,
correct.
These are teams, when they play teams around them, they tend to do, like they tend to look on par. Like when the Rapids play DC, when they play Houston, when they play San Jose, they just tend to look a lot like the same level of quality as those teams. Yeah.
And then you have Galaxy, and you have LAFC, and you have Seattle at home, and you look like world beaters. And so that does, you look at the teams they play down the stretch, and you can, if that's the trend, you can kind of pencil in some exciting soccer, at least for the rest of the way, right? Like you have Dallas. You have Austin.
Dallas game's big because
Dallas game's big. Yeah,
it's on national TV. It'll have playoff implications for the rest of the league. A lot of the league will be watching that. And then
there's a crazy outside shot that Dallas game is when, not outside shot at all, is when Rubio breaks the single season scoring record. He needs 5 goals by then. So not at all a crazy expectation. What, 4 games out? So
if he gets hot, and listen, like there's no one on this team that's gotten as hot.
He only needs 5 goals. He only needs 5 goals. That's not a lot of goals. Now, granted, the Rapids would have to actually score a goal, which seems to be pretty difficult for them as of late. Man,
and that's really coming down to how poor the wing play has been for this team.
Yeah.
And that's really what I keep I keep driving this home in my blog entries about these games. But it's just the Fraser's tactic basically relies on creative play from his wide outlets, be it Michael Barrios, Jonathan Lewis, Sam Nicholson. And those three players have not really shown up to the level that they've been expected to perform at over the last month and a half. Honestly, Jonathan Lewis has had really good stretches this year, and he still has a lot of games
I think
where
he's been pretty
yeah,
awesome.
no,
Yeah.
and I'm not on the trade Lewis train or anything. I think he still has value as like a third winger on this team. But like if this team had Brian Galvan healthy all season, there's like not a doubt in my mind that he'd be starting over, like he'd be first choice winger from the team, from the players that are available.
I would love to watch Lewis, Galvan on opposite sides of each other. I just think that'd be so fun. But we'll get into the whole Galvan. That's a whole podcast postseason.
Sure. And I only just bring it up though because it's impacting how effective Rubio can be.
True.
Because Rubio, what you'll see is that Rubio will often he'll get the ball with his back to goal in the center.
But he's also
park.
40 yards out.
Yeah. And then he'll look to spread it out to the wings to advance it, and then Rubio will make that sort of run into the box to potentially receive a cross and score a goal. The Rubio is doing that first part so well. He is pinging really good through balls and crosses to pick out Barrios, Lewis, and Nicholson, and have them advance the ball up the field. But there's nothing that really happens after that. Yeah. And now obviously you can point to the Zardes miss against DC that he probably should have scored.
Yeah.
And then again, DC should have buried their penalty too, right? So
yeah,
probably a fair.
Good for Yarby, man. We haven't talked about that, but I can't believe that was his first MLS career. I mean, we talked about it on the show, but you and I haven't talked about it. I think that really was a very shocking statistic to me. That his first MLS career save on a penalty.
I think it's shocking us because we all watched that Champions League game where he saved two or three penalties. I don't remember how many, but he really balled out in that shootout. And I guess we just all kind of assumed, oh yeah, he's a penalty goat.
But not this year. It's 12 before he saved one, or 11 before he saved one, or something like that. It's tough.
You'd like it to be a little bit. You'd like that number to be a little bit lower, but it's a penalty, right? It's a lottery at the end of the day, and honestly,
not everyone can be Dean Henderson saving 80% of his penalties or something like that. On the wing. So let's go back to the wing thing. Would you? I'm sure Fraser is going to start a very veteran 11. I don't see him just being development time. If it
kind of needs to be development time though, right?
Well, I'm not saying whether or not it should be. I'm saying what I expect Robin Fraser to do this.
And I agree. I do agree with you that that's what he's going to do.
Right.
But I guess it's worth asking, is that the right call?
And I would pose, and was posing, would you put Max, who I thought played very well up high last game?
Max had a great game. It was arguably his best game of the year.
Would you put him in the Barrios role opposite Lewis for 60 minutes just to see what happens? Because obviously Max has been, in my opinion, he's been kind of free of the Priso got some minutes, but he's mostly been on the bench. Yappy gets maybe 15 at the high end, mostly on the bench. Even Yaya, who was scoring goals left and right, would maybe see 20 minutes, right? So, but Max seems to be the guy for some reason, and I mean, we can get into that too if you want, but he seems to be the guy that does get minutes. So can he move up from that midfield role where he needs to be a possession and be a conduit, which is clearly not his strength, and can he put him up top where he looks successful?
Yeah, my Max is a really weird situation, just positionally where to fit him in, assuming that the Rapids want to keep playing the way that they're playing, which, let's be honest, Fraser hasn't really deviated from, he's deviated the shape, but the Rapids still functionally play pretty much the same way they have all season.
Yep.
And so the question is, can you really expect Max to be effective for 60 minutes from the start of a game in a position that Frazier usually expects like lots of running from?
Yeah.
I think Max was really effective as a sub because, tired legs. There's also the and B-Roy brings up a good point in the comments where he says we have 4 years of Max's contract. So this is
Which is pretty
really
dope,
like a good
honestly.
time to, yeah, it's dope whether or not you think he's going to improve. And I
mean,
do
there's
think
no
he is
way
going to
he
improve
gets
for what
time
it's
at
worth.
the 10, right? Like, there's no way he spends any time at the 10. There's just
That's
it
the
just,
thing, though. It
like,
seems like where he'd fit best.
right. But
Like,
Rubio's not giving up the 10
sure,
anytime
yeah,
soon.
and I'm not saying
with
we
the
should
chance
take
to
him
be
out,
the,
obviously.
not with a chance to have the most goals in a Rapids uniform ever, right? Like, he's not
Yeah.
going to move from that spot. Gutierrez seems to be pretty decent at filling in that 10, and Frazier really seems to like playing him all over the place.
He loves him, man.
I get it. I get it. Some of those
he's
man,
not.
some of
I
those,
guess
the
thing about Gutierrez is his floor is just pretty higher relative to a lot of the
way higher.
midfielders that the
Yeah.
Rapids have had options for. But I
Yeah.
don't see him as a player with a particularly high ceiling. If
Well,
that
yeah,
makes
you're
sense.
right. You're right. Except
I think
for,
he's.
I mean, the ceiling is a beautiful assist, like a gorgeous assist, right? Like,
Yeah.
like 1 or 2 perfect passes that find the right person at the right time.
Sure.
And happen to be able to finish, which has been the hardest thing for the wing specifically to do. 5 combined goals on the wing, less than 10 combined assists.
Mm-hmm.
Nicholson with 0 of each. Barrios with 1 goal, 4 assists. Does that sound right? I haven't looked this up in a couple games, but I don't think he's had one since. So
that sounds about right.
then,
2 goals, 5 assists.
You're right. He got another one. You're right. Because he had the New York goal and then he had one against Red Bull, right? So yeah.
To be
so
fair,
2 goals,
both result-altering goals, you could say. So,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. But so 6 goals combined from your wings, and you said 5 assists. So Lewis has less than that. So yeah, so you're talking.
I just closed the roster page.
Yeah, no worries. It's I mean, like at this point, you don't have Yaya, although I thought he looked great on the wing.
Lewis is 4-2, so I guess at this point he's actually
less productive somehow.
If you want to,
what do you do? Like, what do you do on the wing?
It's
like you're out of options. Try Max.
Here's a sobering stat.
Oh no.
Andrei Shinyashiki in 8 matches played for the Rapids and only 2 starts has a higher goals and assists per 90 minutes than Barrios and Lewis.
I believe it.
Only counting Shinyashiki's 8 appearances with the Rapids this year.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
It's been one of those years, man. We've all watched it happen.
It's like goal scoring is just impossible for this team, and I guess I don't know how much we really need to dig into the Vancouver game, right? Because it's a game where you're playing to win, but not for a result, right? Like there's no target besides winning at home, letting the fans love you, putting on a show that you haven't been able to put on too much, right? So there's how much strategy can you really talk? But this weekend, assuming, like we said, that it isn't full development mode yet, right? So you're probably not going to see Gus starting. You're probably not going to see Prizo starting. You're probably not going to see Max starting. You're probably not going to see. I guess that's kind of it because everyone else is hurt. You're definitely not going to see Yappy start, right?
Well, Brendan also just broke the news that apparently Price is good to go. Potentially,
I have not heard that yet, but I also didn't make it to practice this week, so that's good to hear.
Yeah, they haven't sent out the official availability report yet, but it's looking like Price might get a handful of sub minutes this weekend. So that'd be nice to see. But honestly, like I'm just kind of the opinion that we should just put Price in bubble wrap for the rest of the year. Like with all the juju, all the bad juju that this team has had injury wise this season, is it even worth like throwing him out there in meaningless games? Like what if I mean I know
to me it is it's a yes and a no, right? Yes, in that he hasn't had a sustained stretch of games outside of the first 2 months. No, but even then he had the hamstring, 6 weeks in, something like that. So 7 weeks in. So like he hasn't been able to play. I think if your goal is development at the end and your goal is turning in the best individual performances you can to get the best idea of the roster you have to finish the season, it helps having one of the best free kick takers and defensive organizers and conduits in the MLS out there.
That's true. That's true.
Right?
And it is going to be good to have like these kids playing with like the guy who is going to be leading the team in the future. And let's be honest, there is a clear leadership void on the field when Price is not out there. And all you need to do to see that's true is to look at who goes to the ref whenever there's a questionable call.
Everyone?
And these, yes, exactly.
Everyone?
The entire Rapids team is there.
It's Lawless, it's Acosta, it's Rubio, mostly.
And it's sometimes Yarbrough running out from his box to do it too. Like, that's and that is like a really good point to put Jack out there. And I'm not like saying that, it would be bad for Colorado to do this. I just think it wouldn't surprise me if they held him out, just if they were a little bit more like cautious with bringing him back.
I mean, it's
even
45
once
minutes.
He is fully healthy.
45 minutes.
Yeah.
It's 45 minutes, right? Like that is the absolute, like Frazier for the most part is pretty easy to read and pretty easy to predict what he's going to do. And this season, if you're coming back from injury, you get a half and you are to the bench, right? Like we're not risking it. You're not going to overexert yourself. He does seem to have a long-term vision in terms of that. Maybe not long term, maybe short, long, like a medium term, season long term. I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but like he does seem to think that like you need to ease in and fitness wise, it's
and that's smart. That's like, I'm sure they have listen, like Colorado's front office and their coaching staff they're really heavily reliant on data and sports science. This is like one thing that they have invested a lot into, mainly because they can also piggyback off of what Arsenal has I don't believe it.
I don't believe it.
Well, they can piggy off the data like analytics and stuff that Arsenal has access to. And that's clearly told Frazier, okay, once a guy is ready, you play him 45 minutes and that's it. And then you try it again the next week, you play him maybe 60 minutes and then you're back to 90 after that.
Yeah.
But in terms of like B-Ray's question, he's asking, Rubio, Abubakar and Acosta, who are all on yellow.
I bet you all three.
And listen, like Acosta,
all three are not going to be available on Wednesday. I'll tell you right now.
Listen,
all
Acosta,
three of those guys are getting a yellow card, period. There's no chance otherwise. Zero.
It's worth noting that, Acosta is in the position he is in because of how many suspensions he's had over the course of the season. Because every time you get a yellow card suspension, the number of yellow cards that is required to accrue an additional suspension is decreased. Yeah. So it goes from
insane.
like 5.
So he only needed 4. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he was, I think his first yellow against Nashville, I think is when he got this yellow that put him on watch against DC. And so
then he got
he's just
easy.
Yep. Yeah. So so who's gonna listen, like, as Mitch said, it's very likely that all three.
I'm telling you, every one of those guys is going to miss. Lucas is also going to get a yellow.
I think Lawless is less likely because Lawless has shown recently that when he's been on watch, he's been a little bit more cautious. You can tell that does influence the way he plays a little bit. Whereas with Acosta and Rubio, and with Acosta and Rubio, I feel like they don't even like take their yellow. I mean, I know they do, but they play like they don't take their yellow card accumulation into account. Whereas I do see that from Abubakar. And listen, like it's
no, I'm not going to bet a shot at catch up.
We're just setting up it's just going to be a really interesting like 3-game week because I'm not entirely sure what to even look for beyond just things for next year. And that's what I keep falling back on.
Let's get
I
into
know that makes
into
for
my
really
little
boring
activity here. No, not at all.
Sure.
I think we do have something we can talk about here with that. Let's get into that. But first, of course, we have to talk about the homies of homies, Evoca TV. Evoca is the new GOAT in Colorado sports that is the greatest of all television. Evoca delivers amped up sports coverage for Colorado fans featuring Altitude Sports, AT&T Sportsnet, and the NFL Network. Get the most regional content for the lowest price for sports in Colorado, all in crystal clear HD while using less bandwidth, and enjoy over 60 entertainment channels, including news, movies, and more. Turn your home into the ultimate game viewing zone. You can even stream your teams from your phone, laptop, or tablet when you're on the go, and you can add on a discounted Sling TV bundle to get ESPN and more. Evoca is only $25 a month plus a $5 receiver fee. Right now, Colorado sports fans get $10 off per month for your first 3 months. To score that deal, go to evoca.tv/Colorado10. That's EVOCA.tv/Colorado10. No contracts, no catches. Evoca is TV, made for champions of the remote. Thank you, Evoca TV. All right. So when you said what to look for, and I've been thinking about this for the last couple of weeks of like, and it really hammered it home when I posed the question on the last post-game show of who gets on the score sheet first, Nicholson or Max, because they both have 0 goals and 0 assists. Do you have a quick answer to that? Or do neither? That's the other question.
The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do my my little nerd response and say that Max does have a goal
not in the MLS,
not in the MLS. But you're right. We are still awaiting the historic first Max Alves MLS goal.
Yes.
And we are waiting for the first Nicholson MLS goal since he made his return.
And assist. Neither one of them have an
assist. This is a little bit counterintuitive because you generally would go for the player who's going to get more minutes. But while I expect Nicholson to get more total minutes than Max, I'm still gonna bet we're gonna see something from Max because he's had. If you think back to that RSL game, and there was another substitute appearance. I'm not remembering.
I feel I know. Bad for him.
And then you think back to DC United. You think those 3 games. He has done more off the bench in those 3 games than like Nicholson has done in his it's just a period since he returned. And I really wanted to like the Nicholson signing because it was like, okay, they have a history with this guy. Fraser knows what he's getting. It's going to be a nice little supplemental piece down the stretch. And I do not like bagging on the guy because he seems like such a good kid. And he reminds me of like how I played a lot to an extent. He's just a really fast guy who just doesn't do anything, which was my entire soccer career.
See, I'm different. I'm a slow guy that doesn't do anything.
Okay, fair enough.
An interesting tactic.
And I just hate slagging off on him.
Sure,
because
he needs to be better. Though he does. He needs to be better.
But like I said this when they signed him. That he was always that player who just had 0 end product. That is like the number one thing I remember about Nicholson when they first brought him in from Minnesota under Anthony Hudson is that he just came in and it was 0 end product. And at a certain point you have to ask like, is it, I mean, I don't know why I would prefer they give Lucas Estevez some more wing minutes.
God, he was awesome
play Betashore and Keegan as the fullbacks down the stretch. Maybe even if you want to sub out Betashore because he can't go full night.
Keegan in the center back, like, he's been dope.
And listen, like even Mark Hannick hasn't had great games either. But
no, he's had some pretty terrible games.
but listen, like I'm willing to forgive the guy's first start in how many matches was against the best, most informed team in MLS?
Oh, absolutely. No,
he's against the Union. Like I'm willing to give him a complete pass on that Union game because he was completely set up to fail in that one. Yes. And not to mention when Gus got sent off, there was just no chance he was ever going to redeem a performance even in the second half after his really, really poor first half. So yeah, listen, like I would be really interested in seeing more of Estevez. Like I want to actually see him as a winger.
Why not just Estevez and Max? Start them up top. Start them both.
Yeah.
Start Lucas on the left for Lewis. Start Max on the right for Barrios. See what happens.
And yeah, I mean, we'll see. And it's just really weird, man. It's really weird because there are a lot of players who like on this roster that I know are going to be sort of question marks next season.
Right.
And honestly, like Markanek is one of those guys. Like he is a 1 year plus 4 option or something like that. It's like 4 years of options or something like that on his contract. So he is playing to return next season.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's gotten enough minutes to sort of make a definitive conclusion about. And these 2 games, both against Western Conference bottom dwellers, right?
Yeah.
Which the Rapids are included in, right?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
A intra-dweller competition.
Yeah, right. So the question is, like, I think Markanek has earned, at least, 45, 60 minutes between these two in one of these 2 games.
Yeah.
And I want to see
do
it
Wednesday. Do it Wednesday.
Yeah. Do it. I mean, listen, nobody's going to be at Dick's on Wednesday night anyways.
You think it's going to be that bad? They've had really good attendance. They've had really good attendance, I think.
I will hope that there's a great crowd on Wednesday night. I will be ecstatic to cheer with all of the fun people who go out to Dick's on Wednesday night. But I'm not holding my hopes up for a banger.
Let's do this game and let's start with the 2 that we started this talk with. All right. So first we'll go Max Alves. Max Alves, 1, how would you say his season has been? How would you rank it? And then let's get into how is there a way for him to drastically improve his individual season in these last 5 games?
So I'm going to preface this by saying that my expectations for Max at the start of the year, and before we got on, we went live. I actually went to my season preview, like sort of post that I made to see like what I actually said about him. And to my credit, I did say that he wasn't going to be a world beater in his first year and that he would struggle a little bit. So I'm a little bit pleasantly like surprised that I'm happy I got that right. I mean,
I think I said 15 goals and assists combined. So whatever.
But here was my benchmark. My benchmark was that he would record more goal contributions than Younes Namli did in his last season with Colorado.
Okay. So what does he need to hit?
Younes Namli had 1 goal and 1 assist in 550 minutes last year. And my sort of expectation for Max was as long as he outshone that, it would be not a great, but it would be a sort of an acceptable first year for a young player moving from Brazil to a new country and getting used to a new style of gameplay. And so like, let's give him his due credit and count the Champions League goal.
Sure.
I would like to see 1 more. I would like to see 2 more because I would want him to surpass. Like my expectation was that he would surpass Namli's contributions from last season.
So 2 goals.
Yeah.
2 goals, maybe an assist, right? So we'll say he gets on the score sheet 3 times down the stretch. Would you say that goes from, I don't know if it's a bad season, maybe disappointing is the right word, or maybe
mediocre,
revelatory,
relevant,
like maybe
in
that it was like, oh, maybe we should have known, maybe we should have tempered our expectations and going in, because he was such a maybe not high profile signing, but a high dollar amount signing. Right.
I think when you look at that acquisition, and I think we all looked at it when it happened as this, the Rapids so rarely spend big on transfer fees.
Oh yeah.
And like, so $1 million, like spending $1 million in just pure money which I mean, I guess is actually going to be more like 750 or so, because
Sure, it's not the tier. Yeah, he's not going to hit.
I'm positive he's not hitting whatever metrics were in that deal. So listen, if he finishes the season with 3 goal contributions, I think that's okay. I don't think it's great. I still think that it's not necessarily an indication that it was the right acquisition for Colorado to make. I think you can't really make that full assessment until we get at least 2, maybe even 2.5 years into his time here with the Rapids. I think he need and this is the for those of you who listen to like MLS Extra Time and some other the league's podcasts, that the David Goss theorem is when players come from other countries to MLS, the style of play is just so different from either Europe or South America that it does tend, unless it's a generational talent, like a type of player, like unless you're pulling a player from like the Premier League or something, right? Like Cucho.
Well, like Puig has come in and done very well too. Yeah.
But generally speaking,
yeah,
new acquisitions who are new to the league take about 1 year to sort of bed into the style of play in MLS. And that's just because the game's just a lot different. It's a lot more open. There's a lot. I mean, there's more pressing recently, but it's not as. I mean, you watch any Premier League or Bundesliga game, like the amount of pressing they do in games is orders of magnitude different than in MLS. And yeah, so I think assuming that he only gets 3 or less or fewer goal contributions this season, I would be tentative okay, as long as next season we get in the 5 to 10 range. Like if his 2023 is worse than Michael Barrios's 2022, then I'm starting to get a little bit worried. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a good bar to set for him. And so, yeah, like the biggest thing, it's about seeing whether or not he really gels with the players around him, because when he was playing at the beginning of the season, but when he was at the beginning of the season, it kind of looked like Max was playing a completely different game than the rest of the team.
Well, to be fair, he kind of was, right? Like Brazilian soccer is so different than the MLS. I mean, I think stylistically maybe as far from the MLS as you can get on a professional level.
100%. I think that's a really good observation. And like, so yeah, the question is, how can he adapt? And the other thing is to remember, right, is that Max didn't have a full preseason. Came in really late. I want to say, I think he only appeared in the last game of preseason against Orlando, if I remember right. He had two.
I want to say it was 8. It was 8 days from when he had arrived to when he was playing in that 0 degree game in CONCACAF. I want to say 8 days.
Okay, something that could be right. Yeah, it's like definitely 2 weeks. It's
under
2 weeks.
Welcome.
For sure.
It was like, welcome to Denver. Here is the worst possible weather we will have for the next 2 years or something. Yeah. But I agree with you. I think even if he only gets on the score sheet twice, right? Like even if it's just the 2 goals, 1 goal, 1 assist, two assists, I think anything positive down the stretch leaves such a good impression.
Sure.
Right. Like, and especially because building off that game, I don't know how any Rapid fan could watch that United game and have nothing but good things to say about the way he played. Right. Obviously, finishing would have been great. Right. Like, I think he took an extra touch a couple times where he could have, ripped a shot or whatever. But for the most part, it's like you have to feel encouraged by that. So I think it's pretty clear. If the
flashes are all there.
Yep. 100%.
He's got there's so many, like, that was the biggest.
His step overworked. The step overworked. The Max step overworked. That's 2 games it's worked. So huge.
The biggest thing that I had an issue with Max is at the start of the season, other than that goal against Cremas, he didn't have any showing where it was like, this guy needs to be this guy deserves to be playing at this level. And post international break, so since June, we've started to see a lot more flashes of potential from him. And I've been really pleased to see that, because I think it does show that there is something there, that the scouts weren't just like completely off the off the deep end with that
Right.
acquisition.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see.
Who's your next player? Hit me up with it.
Sam Nicholson. I want to talk about Sam
Oh my god.
because you're talking about familiarity with Colorado.
Yeah.
Now, granted, he played for a different coach when he was here.
He did play a few minutes under Frazier. Yeah, he did. He did,
but
play
not
a
a
few
lot.
minutes with Frazier.
But not a lot.
Yeah, it wasn't. He played the end of 2019. So when Frazier came in post that Red Bull game, I want to say in August. He played under Frazier for the rest of the season.
Okay, so so he had. But my point is, he came back, familiarity, right? That was kind of the calling card, right? That was the description of the move. Was like, this guy. Not only is it reinforcements in a position we need reinforcements, but it's reinforcement who knows what to do when he gets here. Now, the run of play, the film, the pace, the work rate kind of point to it looks like he's never played a second of MLS soccer before he got here.
Yeah. It seems like the man has lost a lot of speed since he last played.
Has no pace.
He used to be like outrun Barrios potentially type speed. Like Barrios wasn't he didn't overlap with Barrios.
Right.
But he did have that's how he was playing for Colorado when he was here in that first stint, as he was that. And here's something, like, I just pulled up his FBref page and I just made myself
I don't even
depressed.
want to hear it. Yeah, I mean,
because in 2 appearances in 2020, which he played the first 2 games that year before the whole world shut down, he recorded 0.2 XG in 170 minutes. In quadruple the minutes this year, he has 0.3 in nearly 500 minutes this season. He has
0.3 and 500
XG.
Minutes. This is one of your three. This is one of your 3-pronged attack.
Top 3, yeah. It's one of your top 3 wingers.
Yeah, he has no pace. I think every time he gets the ball in the wing, he's not getting past him. You hope that he can at least deflect off the guy who's smothering him for a corner or a throw or draw a foul, which he did, which I will give him that. If there's anything he's done at an okay clip, it is being able to draw fouls. But even then, the numbers probably don't bear that out either. Is there a way?
Well, and the numbers don't necessarily help us right now, because without Jack Price delivering set pieces, earning fouls, even in dangerous areas, the best you can get from that is maybe it's a shooting opportunity for Rubio, and that's
and that's about it.
Because like Rubio has like that little he has that little outside of the box area that he loves.
Pretty good, man. I think
there's just such a drop off on corners, man. It doesn't matter.
Corners fair. Corners fair. Set pieces though, and recycled set pieces and stuff. I think Felipe's been great. Okay, but that gets away from the point.
Yeah, sure.
Sam,
what does Nicholson have to do? I actually want to hear from you first.
5 games.
I want to hear from
5
you.
Games. I think he maybe gets. I don't think he plays 90 once.
Yeah.
I think he maybe plays 62 of those 5 ish. Maybe. I don't. Give or take, maybe 3. But I don't think he finishes any. I don't think he plays 90. To me, he would have to basically average a goal contribution a game or just under for me to be like, lock me in for 2 more seasons of this, which is what he's under for, right? Like. Yeah. If he's like, to me right now, Yaya's way past, and it sucks that we're not going to see Yaya for pretty much all of next year too, because Yaya.
But had Yaya been here, had Yaya still be,
you know what I mean?
Like if Yaya was healthy, he would be. He should have been getting these minutes basically
every single Nicholson minute. At this point, Nicholson just needs to produce. I don't know how else to say it. Like on a regular basis, not get 1, not get 2. Like if Max gets 2, I'm like, great. Max rounded into form. He got comfortable. Great. Nicholson is like, you got 2. You've played 700 minutes. You were on the score sheet twice. You know the system. You left. You came back as the reinforcements. You've done nothing. Nothing.
It's just not. I mean, he's done nothing. And like,
it's tough because I really like the guy. I really like the guy. He's a sweetheart. He's really good to talk to.
He's just missing all of that skill that he showed when he was here for his last stint. And I don't know if this happened when like, listen, I don't know like what training is like at Bristol Rovers. You'd like to think that they have like, decent like training regiments and sports
I'll say
science
there's
there or
not as
whatever,
much.
but
There's not as much in those lower level English teams as you think.
yeah.
Pretty
And
much outside of the big six, there's not a lot going on in terms of like the MLS outspends, I bet you, every single one of those teams in terms of training facilities, doctors,
sure.
technology, science, all that. I don't know. I think it's kind of a lost
But
cause.
it's like
so
he's
let's move on to
fallen
a
off a
different guy.
cliff. Yeah,
it's just been bad.
guy.
I don't think there's anything he can do to save the season at this point. Realistically, right? Barring 5 contributions in 5 games, I don't see it.
Sure.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I don't see it either. Like, listen, I haven't seen anything from Nicholson that doesn't tell me everything I've seen from Nicholson tells me that he needs to be getting minutes with Rapids 2, not the Colorado 100%. Rapids.
Okay. Next one I want to talk about, because I think this is an interesting one to debate even where his season is at, let alone finishing it out. And is there a spot for him next season? Brian Acosta.
Good.
Because to me, he's had to play a role that I don't think he had any intention of playing when he signed here. I don't think he wanted to take on that holding midfield, although that is sort of his style. I just don't think he wanted to play Jack Price's role, right? I think he wanted to play his version, and he's kind of forced into another role.
Yeah, you watch how he played for Dallas.
Yeah.
And but listen, like with Acosta, I'm always gonna say that there's gonna be a spot for him on this team.
Yeah.
Just because he's the drop off in terms of some elements,
sure,
from Price's gameplay to him, the drop off is not as great as it would seem on paper. Like, I think Price is obviously the guy you want there.
Yeah,
but I think he's still but given the choice between a guy like Colin Warner and a guy like Brian Acosta.
Right.
I'm taking Brian Acosta.
Oh, all day.
And so I think between Acosta, Warner, and Prizo, I think one of those probably should expect either a huge drop off in minutes next season, or should expect not to be with the team at all next season.
My guess is probably Warner would be the one on that. Yeah. And that sucks because it's the Aurora kid. I think he's had a couple great games down the stretch, but Acosta, I think strengths. Obviously, no one's as good as Jack. Pretty good long balls, pretty decent corners. Hasn't produced at the level you would want from a team, from fans that support Jack Price. I think he's been great on the turnover counter, right? Like on a fast-paced counter. I think he's made pretty good decisions. Especially on really high pressing formations when they do play the right matchup for that kind of style.
Acosta kills the Rapids with yellows because Jack Price isn't an option. There was no way Acosta was slated to play as many minutes as he has this season. And you can tell that based on how little they played him before Price went down with his hammy at the start of the season. Acosta got no minutes, starting minutes at all.
He played
in those
the
first
LAFC game, and then he didn't play
off the bench though, right?
3 games. No, I think he started with Max.
Oh, but that was coming. But that was coming right. That was coming 3 days after going.
Yep.
Like everybody going 90 minutes in brain chill weather.
Yeah. I mean, he's the second most penalized player and not penalized. Sorry. Yellow carded, cautioned, second most cautioned player in the MLS, unless someone caught up to him over the weekend. That was going into the weekend. I bet you it's close because he also picked one up over the weekend. So
he might be back up top. Actually,
he might actually be in first. Yeah. So, and that's detrimental, especially.
He is 8th in total fouls, and he is currently first in yellow cards with 11. He still hasn't matched his personal career best, which is in this season, which is 12. So more Brian Acosta yellow card, and he'll match the total he had with Dallas in 2019.
Over under 39.
There's 5 games left, Mitch. He's getting 2. He's getting 2.
Over under 39 and a half minutes this game for him to match his career high in yellow cards in this Wednesday's game.
Oh God. You know what? Maybe, just maybe, he cools off a little bit at home. And so I'm gonna pick the over, and I'm gonna say he's gonna be suspended for the road trip to
Okay.
the Galaxy.
Okay.
And I'm saying he's gonna
Okay.
pick one up, and he's gonna pick one up on Wednesday. Though. Like
Okay.
one of these two matches, he's guaranteed.
I'll say this, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think for the last 2 months he has gotten a yellow card every game he's played. I literally I cannot remember, like it's like an auto tweet in my game threads. Like it's like oh, here's the Acosta yellow, right? Because like I cannot think of one game where he hasn't picked up a yellow.
You're gonna feel you're gonna feel a little bit.
Am I missing an obvious one?
He did not get a yellow against DC.
Okay, fair enough.
But
it felt like it though.
But he received a total of 5 yellow cards in his previous 6 matches leading up to that game, and that includes the double yellow that he got against Houston that basically ended Colorado's season.
So not every game. I was being dramatic.
No. But still, yeah.
Is there a way? Because I mean, clearly, like if B-Ray is the voice of the fans here, because he's the only one hanging out with us right now. Is there a way for him to, when it's, October meetings, whatever, exit interviews, all that, is there a way where fans are like, hell yeah, Acosta's back next season, let's go, right? Like what does he have to do to wrap this season up? I think
it's generally, when Acosta's around next year, I think it's generally going to be met with a reaction of okay from most fans.
Sure.
I think to listen, like he really needs to pick up some assists, I think, from like sort of the either honestly from the run of play. Like I know he tends to be that second ball guy, so we'll count hockey assists in there, right? Give me a few like good pieces of build up play where he's like the second to last guy who gets that ball in. Sure. Like that's what I really want to see from him. So if he picks up 2 more down the stretch, then maybe I go from a C+ to a B- for next year. I think we like for a season grade. And
next year, here's the thing: he's not going to start probably next year, right?
Yeah,
like
him starting as much as he has he's supposed to be the depth guy.
Minute, whoever from the midfield needs to come out, play 30 minutes, pick up a Wednesday start, pick up a cup start, pick up a whatever. And then I think he's great in that role, right? Then fine, rack up some yellows. Who cares, right? Like that doesn't kill everything. Okay, next player. Let's say a guy who is definitely frustrated to a lot of fans, who I'm a big stan. You bought his kit the second you could, and it's Gyasi Zardes, right?
That's the big. That is the literal $1 million question, or it's the $750,000 question.
If he hits double-digit goals, which I believe he's now 2 away, is that right?
That's right. He is. He's got 9 total on the season if you count one with Columbus.
He's 1 in Columbus, but we'll just say for Colorado. If he is a double-digit goal scorer for the Colorado Rapids this season, are you, Joseph Samelson, happy with what he did in his time? Considering 3 of those were in 1 game.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Listen, I think Zard, the biggest problem is and I'm saying this with the mindset that he had a sitter against DC that he probably should have done better with. Correct. Right? Fully cognizant of that. Right.
And had one against Seattle, I want to say,
listen,
on the road that he should have bagged too.
But like these last few, really since that Minnesota game, he hasn't been getting any service.
No, he's gotten zero service. Zero. And it's no help. He has no help. None.
And listen, like we all knew when they bought Zardes that okay, this is like a poacher type striker. This is your Kai Kamara striker who's going to work like hell to press up the field. He's going to get himself into really good positions. And if you can hit him with crosses, you can get goals because he's a very good, like he's got a very good shot inside like the 6-yard box like just outside, like inside the 18. Like he's a, he's a dog in the box, like he's just like,
he's got that dog. I think he's got that dog. I think you could say that.
And listen, and he has 10 goal contributions in MLS games this year, including assists.
That's good. That's good.
Listen, if the Rapids were a team in MLS that had an ownership willing to splurge on top tier talent, then I'm telling you right now, Zardes isn't it. And that's why he wasn't it for Columbus, right? But for Colorado, when it's clear that ownership really isn't giving the team much to work with aside from the profit that they earn from their transfers, I struggle to imagine like the type of striker Colorado could pull in that could do better work than Zardes. Now, here's the big caveat for this offseason for me. Like currently, I'm leaning towards re-sign just for that reason.
I think you re-sign him easy.
But the big caveat for me is the combination of his salary and all the money that you're putting into or you're giving to Columbus to sign him, right? For me, his salary has to be in the you can buy this down from a DP range in order for him to be like justified to stick around. Like that doesn't mean he has to. That doesn't mean he can't. He can still be a DP if they need him to be that, like for roster construction reasons or whatever. But his salary needs to be below the $1.6 million threshold, which is the threshold by which you can still buy down players under the $600,000 cap. So that is my big caveat. I think he's worth it there. I think if you give him a significant raise from the 1.5 million that he has been earning, it's not worth it.
Okay, well, again, this is an off-season question. That's not what I'm saying. That's not that's not the goal of this game. Although I do agree with you. The goal of this game is, can he finish out this season and have Rapids fans, Rapids analysts say that was a good season?
I think people will say he's had a good season if he bags over 10 goals. I think there's some people who have the market somewhere closer to 15.
How many games
total contributions?
You have his player page up. That's why I'm asking here. But I mean, we're talking about 22 games he'll play.
He is averaging a goal and assist more than every half a game, over half a game.
But I'm saying, like, what's his? So he showed up in April.
Oh yeah, let me look at.
But like, so how many games is he going to play? And he's going to put up potentially 15 goal contributions, right? Like,
so he's played 20. He's played 21 matches with Colorado. If you take out that one where he was the sub and he was just getting his toes wet against Charlotte, right? It's just 20. He's got 20 starts, and in those 20 starts, he's going to finish with
25 games. 25 starts.
Yes. Assuming he starts the rest of the season, which there's no reason why he shouldn't, barring injury.
So if he scores 3 goals, we'll say, and adds an assist. So that
I think if he scores 3, that's a must re-sign from most Rapids fans. If he scores 3 more down the stretch.
11 goals and 25 starts. Like, that's like...
I'm talking 11 goals and 2 assists in 25 starts, which I think is, honestly... For how late he arrived, that's pretty damn good. Totally. And I think that,
man, wouldn't you love to see
there is going to be a drop off?
Jack Price corners and set pieces. That dude is a giant.
Yeah. How many games is he? How many minutes has he actually played with Jack Price on the pitch? Is it just
I bet you it's less than
it's
200.
The 45 against Minnesota.
Yep. I bet you it's less than 200. Would be my guess. It's probably less than 200 or
around
200.
I'll check that at the end of the season because that's a really good question.
I don't look, unless Porig has something up his sleeve that fell through in this late window or something like that. That is a striker on a very certain level, right? Like on a high all-star level. I think Giassi's a no-brainer.
But even if you,
I think it's a no-brainer.
Even if you do have one of those strikers available, I wouldn't be against them re-signing Zardes and pulling in somebody else.
Maybe like an Arango or something along that level, where it's like maybe not all-star, but potential caliber ceiling of that level. I think it's thank you, Logan. Shout out Logan jumping in late. My guy, dude, must resign for me right now. I might get hate for that. With what Zardes came into the season, did an all right job. Not saying it was phenomenal, but enough to resign him for sure. I think if you're the Rapids, I think you have to be realistic about your market, and not just your market in terms of I think you need to be realistic about your attraction, your attractiveness to MLS level players, to high level strikers. If Zardes liked his time here and is willing to sign, you hand him that contract the second he says I'll resign it. Like I don't like, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just think it's crazy to think otherwise. I think it is insane to think otherwise. You're not going to do much better.
You wanna know? This is your number.
He has way more than a goal every 200.
Here's your number one reason. Here's your number one reason. Next year, Galvan comes back. Yes. Last season, Galvan completed the second most crosses into the 18-yard box.
Yeah.
Among Rapids players on last year's roster. He's one of the reasons why the Rapids were so dangerous from the wings last year, was because his crosses were so good. And I think that if you have Galvan pinging crosses, then you're going to get a lot more out of Zardes than you did this year. And that's while accounting for the fact that Zardes has he's met some people's expectations this year. I will say, I think at minimum he's met some people's expectations. I think he'll meet. Yeah, if he hits 15, like 14 to 15 total goal contributions, it should be no question. To re-sign him.
Zardes, also Rubio, but like Lewis, Galvan. That is a 4 that if I mean, we are very committed to Fraser. Like Fraser is going to be building out these game plans next season. And whether or not you've gotten the results, I think the bones and the structure of that attacking foursome, right, with 2 good midfielders behind it and a strong back 4, I think Galvan Lewis with Rubio behind Zardes is so good. I think it's so good.
My blueprint for the attack next season is to not option Barrios and buy an additional winger. And then 100%. Play Galvan and that additional winger as like your 2 big like wide options. Like those are your starters, right? And then you can bring in a guy like Lewis and maybe Nicholson if things get really hairy, right? As like depth options. And I think that's fine for them as players. I mean, they might not like that comparatively, but I do think that's where Colorado needs to improve the most. And the one thing that I would feel a little bit hesitant about Zardes regarding is, is just his age. But I also think his like sort of fox in the box mentality, like that's like he might lose a little bit of his speed, but like look at that goal he scored against Nashville and look at how he outmuscled Walker Zimmerman, the starting U.S. national team, like the best American center back in the world. Like look at how he just completely he just pantsed him, man. Like he embarrassed. And like, listen, he's not the best, but I am struggling to think of better 9s that one will be available that Colorado can go after. And nobody should say Joseph Martinez, because as much as I love Joseph Martinez, that is the type of player whose personality is bigger than the team and would almost certainly lead to locker room problems. And that's the type of player that Colorado just never goes after anymore since the whole Stefan Eigner debacle. So he's the only player I could see like in the MLS market. Maybe Arango, right? Like that'd be a great get. Go get Porg, if you're listening, go get Christian Arango or Chicho Arango. No, he listens.
Look, I'll say this.
And then I think Zardes is a really good second option behind Arango. I think gives you 2 strikers who offer something different.
He has been, and I think I'm going to speak to kind of where B-Ray's saying like he's been terrible, a goal every 210 minutes. He's underperformed. Who has he played with that has been giving quality service to a striker? You have 0. Price has not played. You have price on even 50% of the free kicks that have been taken in his place, right? So not even all of them, just give him half of them. That's probably 2 goals for Zardes minimum right there. Minimum. Maybe 3 or 4. Like Barrios and Lewis, we've said they're at 7 and 6 goal contributions together, right? They're not even at 15 combined on your wings, right? You add in their backup and it's still 13 goal contributions because the backup is 0 and 0. It's not about trying Zardes, which B-Ray is saying here. It's about having a tool and a piece like a Zardes who fits well with your optimized lineup.
The issue,
Yeah. Being able to unlock the goals that have just been on the shelf because you can't get to them.
So I haven't updated this since the DC game, but going into the DC game in Colorado's last 4 or 5 matches, basically since he scored against Minnesota, Zardes has averaged 1 or fewer shots inside the 18-yard box, and per game. That tells me that the Rapids are not getting him the ball in a position where he can shoot. And it's
right.
And he's still doing it. To his credit, he's trying the occasional long shot, right? But when you watch Zardes off the ball, if you legit just go into that Nashville game and just watch how he plays,
so good.
He does the pressure. He does the pressures that Fraser asks of him. You can tell that he works it's like kind of watching Kai Kamara when he was playing with when he was playing with the Rapids in 2020. His work rate is just very high. You can tell he's getting into positions that he's supposed to get into.
Correct.
But he's just not getting the ball in those positions. Now, that's not saying that he's completely blameless, because it does involve him, outmaneuvering defenders, and it does involve him finishing. But the Rapids need to put him in a position to take more than 1 shot per 90 minutes inside the 18-yard box, which is what's been happening over the last few games. And that includes the Nashville game where he scored on his only shot inside the 18-yard box.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. You're right. Yep.
Get Zardes the ball on top of the 6, and he is going to score. And he's done that literally all season. That's where all of his goals come from, is right inside the mixer in the box. The Rapids just need to get him the ball there.
Yeah. Look, for me, I think just to kind of tie a bow on this conversation, if you can get assists from the wings, right? If you can get those guys who haven't got on the score sheet to provide assists to Rubio to break the goal mark and to Zardes to hit that double digit, it's a win down the stretch if you don't make the playoffs. I mean, making the playoffs is the big win, but if you can't, which I don't think they can, I think that is about as much as you can ask for this team going down the stretch. And that's me. So we're going to wrap it on that note. You'll obviously see us late post game. I won't be going to the presser, so it won't be late like it could be. But it will be pretty late. But yeah, we'll be doing that post game. Joseph, go ahead and plug your stuff, man. Where can they find you? Where can they read you?
Oh man. Yeah, you listen, if you guys like what I had to say, or even if you don't, I'm always interested in a healthy sports debate. So you can, if you don't like what I said today, get on Twitter and at me at JSPSAM and tell me why I'm wrong, or tell me why I'm right.
Just tell me why I'm right. I don't like hearing why I'm wrong.
Listen, I love no. Listen, I'm right here for the healthy sports debate. Mitch is gonna block you if you say something mean to him. But listen, I want to hear
reinforcement, baby. That's all I need, baby.
I want to hear you guys tell me why we shouldn't resign Zardes. So get in my mentions about that, and then if you guys want to hear more in-depth stuff from me, Joseph Samelson. .com is where I post sort of in-depth recaps and previews about the game. Although, if I'm completely honest, I don't really know how I'm going to preview this one.
Just don't.
We'll see.
Just go easy, man. Cool. Yeah. Definitely make sure to follow Joseph on everything if you don't. Although if you're watching the show, you followed Joseph a very long time ago.
You
I'm
probably
sure of
did.
that. So that's awesome. Make sure you follow DNVR Sports. Make sure you follow DNVR Rapids. Make sure you follow Yahir. Make sure you follow Dwayne, the Dwayne Brown, not Invisible Labs. So weird to me, but I get it. We're a brand, baby. We're taking over. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Huge. That thumbs up goes a really long way. Make sure if you listen to us on a podcast app that you are giving a 5-star review and nothing less. Nothing less. 5 only. And say how great we are. We love that. But more importantly, so does the algorithm. So definitely do that if you can. Get your merch, get your DNVR membership. Come down to the DNVR bar. We didn't get into it. What?
We should start doing when people leave reviews, you read them on the show. That's what the Best Soccer Show does. So yeah, if you guys leave the DNVR podcast review on iTunes, and we'll see if Mitch can remember to read it out loud on the next pod.
Oh, I'll remember.
Okay.
Yeah. Remind me to remember that. But yeah, man, more important than all that, and it's the thing we say every time, even when we're down bad, even when we're talking about how to salvage a bad season. The one thing that matters, baby, it's up the pids.
Up the pins.